and graciously the Jews would be allowed to rebuild their temple in this holy spot.
The one thing they're waiting for is the kind of political climate in order to rebuild the temple, and I believe that will soon come. It may be that the Antichrist himself will be the one who will negotiate a peace which will allow them to build their temple alongside of the Dome of the Rock.
Another ominous indication that we may be on the threshold of the tribulation is the worldwide move toward a global government and economic system, identical to the one that will be in place under the coming world leader. Historically, people have scoffed at the idea of a world government, declaring that nations would never give up their autonomy, particularly the United States. Yet, in 1946, for example, the American Education Fellowship called for, quote, the establishment of a genuine world order, an order in which national sovereignty is subordinate to the world authority. Actually, for a number of decades, many government and economic leaders have been working feverishly behind the scenes to achieve such a goal.
A lot of us have thought in the past the idea of a one-world government, a one-world monetary system, was just something so totally far-fetched, wasn't even worthy to be discussed. But with the development of computers, with the development of the internet, satellites, fiber optic cables, and all of these things, the world is becoming one society, which lends itself to a one-world government. This type of technology is also going to usher in what I call a one-world currency. It's just a natural progression that this is going to happen. And I think it's going to be used in a way for people in the government to maintain control over the people of the world.
Isn't it uncanny the way the world is talking about how our problems that of individual nations are beyond us? We must put together a global society, but to put together a global government that is the singular power that controls everything is a violation of the divine order. When the Bible talks about nations, it's in the plural. God has ordained a multiplicity of nations so that people will not easily be able to organize an insurrection against him. But that is what the New World Order is bound to become.
We are living in a time when all of these things are beginning to come to pass. The elitists of the world, the intelligentsia of the world, they're just driven with the obsession that we've got to have a one-world government. And if all the governments of the world would just disarm and turn their military might over to the United Nations, then we could have a one-world government where only the United Nations, or whatever its successor would be called, would have the power to force government. They have this idea, and it's really strange to me. They don't want God to rule over them. They want a man to rule over them. And they feel safe if we could just elect a human being that would be the supreme dictator, then he would automatically be a benevolent dictator. I don't know how they can come to such a ridiculous conclusion on the basis of history.
I think what we're seeing is a rapid movement toward the fulfillment of Bible prophecy. People see it, they understand it, they applaud it, and they have no idea that we're moving toward our own destruction.
Jesus said that just as early light contractions warn a pregnant woman that hard labor is about to begin, so the world would experience early warning pains before the hard labor of the 7-year tribulation. He prophesied that just as the pains of a pregnant woman gradually intensify, we could expect to see an increase in the frequency and intensity of such things as wars, diseases, natural disasters, immorality, false religions, and persecution.
One of the things that Jesus said would happen in the last days was that there would be wars and rumors of wars. Of course, there has always been warfare in human history, but the 20th century has been the bloodiest time in the history of mankind.
This has been the most barbaric century in the history of man. This 20th century has murdered about 183 million people. It's incredible what the inhumanity of man to man. And most of it, by the way, has been done by communist dictators.
We've seen an increase in the capacity of mankind to inflict destruction unparalleled in human history. You know, there have been 60 million people who've been killed in the 5 major wars of the 20th century. And probably another 150 million have died at the hands of communist persecutors. Who knows how many have died in guerrilla conflicts? And since the advent of the atomic bomb in 1945, mankind has lived in the shadow of nuclear holocaust, which could destroy all life on the earth.
Prior to the middle of the 20th century, many of the events described in Revelation could not have been possible except through supernatural means. However, now, with the advent of nuclear and biological weapons, many of these prophesied horrors of mass destruction appear imminent.
Mankind has the capacity to inflict the kind of mass devastation and carnage that the ancient prophets of the Bible predicted. The prophet Zechariah said in Zechariah 14:12 that the armies that invade Israel in the final battle will be smitten with a plague which will cause the flesh to melt off of the soldiers' bones while they stand on their feet, their tongues to consume away in their mouths, and their eyes to consume away in their sockets. This is an exact description of what happens to human flesh when exposed to the effects of a neutron bomb explosion.
We have to remember that even though the Soviet Union as such has broken up, they still have the most awesome military machine in the history of the world, even stronger than the United States. And the real question and the real danger today is who's going to control that. They still have the nuclear weapons to destroy the whole Western civilization in 30 minutes. In fact, bring devastation upon the whole world. They have over 30,000 thermonuclear warheads with the ability to deliver them. Right now, we do not know where their Typhoon-class submarines are. Most of them are at sea and we have no idea where they are. Each one of those Typhoon-class submarines, as the hunt for Red October hinted at, carry enough warheads to destroy 200 cities.
The Typhoon-class submarine is considered by the experts as the ultimate weapon. And they had a 2-to-1 majority and still built 30 more, where they have 90 against our 30-some-odd. So why are they doing this? Clearly, they have an agenda quite independent of the rhetoric and the facade of the disarmament that we so foolishly take at face value.
A 4-megaton warhead can ionize the whole Los Angeles basin. And when I say ionize, it means you would not even be able to tell one building material from another. Now, they have some nuclear weapons in places like Kazakhstan, which is a Muslim province, that have 25 megaton warheads on it. Now, the world has never seen what a 25 megaton warhead could do. As a matter of fact, some military planners wonder why would anyone ever build such a thing, since a 4-megaton warhead would vaporize a city like Los Angeles.
We claimed victory too soon, said Robert Shope, professor of epidemiology at the Yale University School of Medicine. He added that the danger of infectious disease has not only not gone away, it's getting worse. In addition to the out-of-control AIDS virus and the ever-expanding number of hepatitis cases, deaths during the final decade of the 20th century have skyrocketed from vaccine-immune strains of TB